I'm Vicki Hogarth, and this is a NewsBreak26 special report. I'm joined right now by Brad Henderson, the mayor of St. Andrews, to get an update on Hurricane Lee. Thank you, Brad, for being here today.
Appreciate the opportunity to talk to the public about it.
So as of Friday morning, you had meetings with EMO this morning. Can you just give us an overview of the trajectory of the storm at this point in time and what we can expect locally?
Yeah, so the conditions around the storm is kind of an active situation where it does keep changing, but the most up-to-date kind of projections that we got for St. Andrews specifically was about 75-kilometer-an-hour winds. It looks like the storm itself is kind of shifted a little bit. Still definitely coming up the Bay of Fundy and having major impacts on our communities. In particular, Graham and Ann seems like for the Charlotte County area and surrounding to be getting the highest wind gusts. But yeah, the call this morning was a number of municipal officials, mayors, you had CAOs from administration, and of course EMO, and it was a lot of different conversations came up from the weather conditions to preparation to even communication strategy was something that was very relevant as well. So we plan to have another one tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. as well.
Okay, and since we're based on a peninsula here in St. Andrews, what's the advice they're giving for people in very coastal regions for how to prepare for the storm? As
homeowners, it's obviously secure the things around your property. Anything that you think that could blow in the wind, obviously secure that. But really it's about making sure you're prepared for a 72-hour period within your property, things like batteries, different types of food sources that you might not need to use an oven. But a lot of people, have generators, generator panels and things like that. So the inconveniences of a few years ago for some aren't quite what they used to be. But it is about, taking this situation seriously, although it does look like the winds might be not as much as we had originally hoped. Things can change in a hurry, and there's often situations where you're over-prepared. But there's nothing worse than if you're underprepared, and people are supposed to be prepared for 72 hours.
Now, obviously, a lot of people in this community also have access to the water quite frequently or might have boats. How are people preparing that might have anything from a boat in the harbor to a dinghy?
So we've, at the town of St. Andrews, encouraged all users of the wharf to actually remove their boat. As of right now, about 80% of them have been removed. With that being said, municipal staff has worked with a few of the boat owners. Because of the winds, there is a particular spot where they should be versus on one side of the wharf to get damaged. But for the most part, like even the federal boat, the Viola Davidson, that has been relocated to a St. John Safer Harbor port area. So for the most part, if you have something in the water, the best thing you can do is take it out of the water. And it's also important to note that the wharf will be closed this evening for safety, as well as the point area by the campground will also be closed, because we saw in the last major storm that it actually looked like beach because so much debris had come across the road. So we can't have people driving around getting stuck and putting themselves in dangerous situations this evening.
So from what I understand, the storm is not necessarily hitting at high tide now, which could be at least some good news.
Yeah, so the latest projection is putting kind of, the bulk of the storm, the eye of the storm, closer to 8 p.m. on Saturday night. And if you look at the tide schedule, that's pretty close to low tide. And when we see those devastating consequences to kind of erosion and the impacts on flooding, like I mentioned the point, but also Market Square, when we see that stuff happen, typically it's high winds at high tide. But if the storm continues to last, because it is a slow moving pressure system, when you get closer to 2 a.m. and high tide, that's when you're going to see more devastating effects. And of course, anyone that lives directly on the water, there's examples of cottages that are literally on rock edges. You've just got to use your own judgment on where is the safest spot to be. But the most important thing is it's exciting to go out and see the damage and things like that, but it's also important to make sure that you're being safe.
Now, how is the town preparing? I know anyone who's driven around Friday morning can see already that Water Street is no longer a one-way street. The signage has been removed for safety reasons earlier than planned, so that's one way the town's preparing. But what is the town staff doing at this point in time?
So it's a multi-level approach right now. So there is things that we are securing around the community. For example, the flower baskets that are so beautiful that hang in our downtown are taking down the flags. But other things are waste baskets that are blowing. There's plastic ones. They've all been secured. But people will notice that the one-way street that normally will stay open till mid-October for Indulge Festival, we've taken it and converted it back to a two-way street. And it's just because all those barricades actually could become hazards. So we made the decision to remove those altogether. I think the big thing though as a municipality when you prepare for is you want to make sure that all of your municipal vehicles are completely filled up, your fire trucks, your public work trucks, but also that the emergency center, which is where we are right now, the WC O'Neill Arena complex, we saw how vital and crucial that was during the forest fire. We want to make sure that the generator's been tested, which we do regularly anyway, but to make sure that in a moment's notice, if we need to turn this into emergency shelter area, that we can do so, and town officials have been preparing all week. So as bad as it sounds, the forest fire actually really was some key learning. I think overall the municipality did an incredible job, but it was some key learning on emergency situations, and internally our communication going into this has been so much stronger as a result.
Obviously there's a generator here at the arena, so this will be headquarters if there are things like power outages.
There are, in a moment's notice, like if it's any significant power outage, we're not talking if your power is out for an hour or two, but if we're talking it's a situation where it's extended. The good news at this time of year, we're not dealing with those freezing cold temperatures like we did during the polar vortex. That's when things are really concerning. Right now, if you're without power for an hour or two, that is unfortunately just living on the East Coast. And you look at the high winds, plus the fact that a lot of our trees have all leaves on them. I would say that probably one of the biggest risks that we have right now is those power outages. But if it does drag on, people need to have a way to communicate with people. Cell phones are such a vital resource. We need people to be able to charge. And as well, this is such a beautiful building that if it's an extended period of time where people are on wells, don't have generators, they may need things like showers and stuff. This building could potentially offer some of those services as well.
Well, I know that the provincial government launched a website yesterday. It's on our Facebook page. It's also running along our TV channel in an alert section. But in terms of getting alerts from the municipality and as well the province, where should people expect to be given that crucial information that might be breaking news?
Yeah, so the government site will give you kind of an overview of what the storm is, the hurricane updates, but in part of that website that the province launched, it actually says for finding out what's in your community, you should be consulting with your local community. So for us, we do have Voyant Alert, which is our emergency response system, where we can actually text. If you haven't signed up, you should do so. If you were on our system that we had last year that actually suspended, you automatically got converted to this new system, but you will start to receive messages from the town in any emergency situation. But also for those that are on social media, please feel free to follow the Town of St. Andrews Facebook page and as well Twitter. And then in addition to social media, the town website will be up to date. And then of course follow Vicki Hogarth on CHCO. Actually came up in the emergency call. You're a wonderful source for the whole region. But the fact that media is currently banned in Canada, and a lot of people have started going to social media for information. Municipalities and municipal leaders are going to have to do a lot better job communicating with the public to tell them what's going on. And of course, you can visit your local media sites as well, because they will be giving updates, although they may not be on social media.
All right, well, we are doing our best here. And in final thoughts, what are some of the checklists you would say for people at home? I know it's 2 liters of water per person per day is one of the major things. Candles, batteries, make sure your phones are charged, that you have cash on you in case ATMs are down. What are some other final checklist
your
items?
car should be full of fuel in case you need to go anywhere in any emergency situation. But for the most part, you've got the list. It's the things that you need to survive 72 hours, but the batteries, making sure everything you can possibly have charged is charged, and keeping in mind that internet could be down and all those other services. But for the most part, everyone stay safe, and again, we hope we look back at this situation and say that we're all over prepared, but that's the only way that we should be as a community, because the worst, who knows what could happen with the storm. It could change.
Well, I appreciate you being here today, Brad. I know you're here all weekend, so we might have you back. We never know.
Happy to be on.
Thank you so much. That was Brad Henderson, Mayor of the Town of St. Andrews, and this has been a NewsBreak26 special report on Hurricane Lee.
A news and public affairs production of CHCO-TV, New Brunswick's only source for independent community television.